The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win Make Give podcast network.
Welcome to the 15-Point Plan podcast. Chad Himes here, joined as always, well, not always, but most of the time by my wonderful partner, Jilene Snell. Jilene, welcome. How are you today?
Hey, so good. Good to be here.
Excellent. Jilene, I have a issue to put out there before we get into today's episode. I can't lift my arms above like my shoulder height. So if for some reason I need to adjust a mic over my head or something, you're going to have to come over here and fix that for me. And you'll understand why after we get to our guest today. Because yes, we're having one of those interview episodes on the 15-Point Plan where we reach out to some amazing people to share some amazing stuff when it comes to health, energy, and happiness. And Jilene, we went to, I'm going to call her one of my personal trainers. I mean, we've never met before today, but yet using Tonal, I get to call Nicolette Amarillas one of my personal trainers because she yells at me at least 2 to 4 times a week. And she's joining us here on the podcast today. So Nicolette, welcome to the 15-Point Plan.
Hello. Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Well, we love having you here. And, you know, Nicolette, the way I've been told in other interviews from other people that they call this the lazy man intro. And I think that's baloney because I'm sick and tired of listening to people introduce them by reading bios, right? There's nothing more boring than reading a bio about somebody. So I'm not going to introduce you at all.
Okay.
Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and let them know who Nicolette really is?
All right. Who is she really? Well, she's a weirdo. Yes. But I am Nicolette. I'm a exercise coach and postural specialist, and I'm based out of San Francisco. For the last almost 11 years, I've been running my own business as a trainer and postural specialist, working with clients one-on-one. But over the last 4 years, since 2017, I've been working with Tonal. Tonal found me while I was a trainer in San Francisco, and here we are. So I used to work with clients one-on-one. I don't work with clients much one-on-one anymore because I am with Tonal. Working on postural health, which we'll probably get into a little bit at some point today. And then also with strength training. So my specialty is in curriculum and program design, as well as, spinal and postural health.
Awesome. Love having that here. And I know we're going to definitely talk about it because before the interview today, when I was talking with Jilene getting ready for it, she was like, postural health. I got to ask her about this. This sounds exciting. So I'm going to let Jilene get to that in a minute. But before that, I want to jump right into something it says on your website.
Yep.
NicoletteAwellness.com for anybody who wants to go check it out themselves.
Yes.
The quote that jumped off the page at me, other than the fact that it was larger font, was it just said, my goal is to help my clients feel physically and emotionally powerful, strong, and pain-free. So, I think we could talk the whole episode just on physically and emotionally powerful, strong, and pain-free. I'm going to start with that last part, that pain-free.
Yeah.
Because growing up, it was always no pain, no gain, right? We were believed pain was important for all of this, and yet you finish it with pain-free. So let's jump to that part and go right there. What is your thoughts on this pain-free, no pain, no gain concept and all of that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it really comes from the fact that when I first stepped into the gym that I worked out of for 7.5 years, which is called Diacati in San Francisco, I stepped into the gym and it was everyone there is a contractor. So they all run their own businesses. We just pay rent to the gym. And it's this incredible facility in San Francisco. And I remember stepping in there and just being incredibly impressed by so many of the coaches that were there. And the first thing I noticed was in the first couple of weeks of being there is the successful people there, the successful coaches, were not the ones that were just workout partners, workout buddies to their clients, doing bicep curls and bench presses all the time. The people that were successful, the trainers that were successful, were the ones that were helping people out of pain and truly trying to understand where pain comes from and how that can help improve their performance in the gym. And so it definitely stemmed, it's always for me, I'm definitely a success oriented, driven, like very A type personality where I go into a room, I'm like, that person right there, whatever they're doing it right. And I want to know exactly what that is. So I'm huge on mentorships and I've always had a mentor throughout my entire career. Um, and I step in, I'm like, oh, so you're not just a workout partner to your client. Like you're helping this individual feel better, move better, and then emotionally be a more sound, strong individual because of that. And I realized that that was not only how I could make more money, I could charge more money, but also keep clients for longer and have clients that felt like they were really connected to what we were doing instead of just there to sweat. And that's another big thing on my website too. I think it's like I'm not there just to help my clients sweat. Like we're here to train, to learn, to grow physically and emotionally. We're not just here to work out and throw around some dumbbells.
That's such a powerful way to look at it, Nicolette. And I bet you gave us a couple things there.
Mhm.
How to find a correct trainer, right? Some things to look
Yeah.
out for in finding the correct trainer, but to think of our health a little bit more holistically. Because I know I've gone to the gym and just worked out really hard and sweat and then pulled a muscle, didn't work out for a week or two because I wanted that muscle to heal, come back, and because I haven't worked out for 2 weeks, go at it again and create that second injury. And it just has this compound effect. So you're saying trainers in these areas can really help prevent that. You talk a
Yeah.
little bit about being emotionally powerful.
Mhm.
And this was really intriguing to me. Could you share a little bit about what that aspect of training looks like?
Yeah. So I think it takes kind of taking a step back, at least for me. When I look at my journey in movement and in health and in fitness, it doesn't necessarily start from this really happy place. And I think that's the story for a lot of women in fitness. It starts from a need of wanting to be thin and small and losing weight and being really lean, and it comes from a less loving place. And so once I kind of made through that journey, and I'm always on it, right? Like it's never really ending. But as I became a coach and owned my own business and helped my clients, I realized how powerful it was that especially women, but everyone feel strong emotionally and not just physically. And that can mean everything from just having the confidence to walk into a gym. That's hard. I think people who have never tried it before, they might know, and maybe it's not, maybe it's why they haven't tried it. Um, but it's very difficult walking into an environment that you're so unfamiliar with. And I think that's why I'm always so impressed, even by tonal members who purchase a tonal, people who walk into a gym and like, I've never worked out before, but I'm going to try this out. That is incredibly challenging. And I'm always so impressed by people that do that because it's uncomfortable. No one likes to walk into a space that they know nothing about in front of people that they think know everything. And so that emotional like resiliency, right? To be able to not only start a journey, but to continue to show up even when it's really hard, even when they go through injuries, even when their situation at home is not optimal. And then there's a second part of that with emotional well-being and movement. A lot of our emotions are stored in our body, and so a big part of my postural background is being able to see where emotions actually physically resonate in people. So if
Mm.
I have clients that come to me that are experiencing deep emotional trauma from a past experience, or they're having relationship issues, a lot of the times I can actually see that in the body and how the pelvis is positioned, how the spine is positioned, where the shoulders sit. And so it's a way for me to connect with my clients on a physical level, even though it's emotional.
Wow. All right. So talk more on this postural health concept.
Yeah.
What is it? What makes it so important? It's
Hmm.
we love bringing new terms to our audience. And heck, I love just learning
Yeah.
new terms myself. I'm saving one for the end of the call as well that I want to get into with you.
Okay.
But let's talk postural health.
Yeah.
Explain that and help us through it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is important too, because I think that people hear that and they're like, what is that? But you know it. Like, it's not rocket science. Essentially, when I'm training a client based on their postural health, it means that I'm helping the position of their body when they begin and end movement. That's posture. Posture is how we sit, walk, stand, and it's how we begin and end movement. The position your body is in before you do the squat, during the squat, and then after the squat. So with the concentration on postural health, what I'm doing is helping clients put their body into their most optimal position. I say their most because perfection is never the goal. We're not looking for perfect posture, right? We're looking for posture that functions well for that individual.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, yeah. And it's hard for me to even come away from that, and be like, perfect posture. So when I work with clients, I'm essentially trying to get their body into their most optimal position so that when they go and get under weight, under a barbell, with dumbbells, then that is a better movement because they've started from a better position. Um, a lot of injuries stem from improper spinal position, whether it be in deadlifts, squatting, or even just simple things like rowing and lat pull downs. If we're not starting from a strong position, that means our spinal curvature is complementing where the position of our shoulders and our limbs are, then that movement could potentially cause injury. And I'll end with, essentially, everything comes off of the spine, right? So everything is attached to our torso. So you better believe that if our spine is not in a good position, all of that is going to resonate all the way out into your fingers, toes, and the top of your head. So if we can improve and strengthen the position of the torso and the spine, everything else that comes off of it is also going to be stronger, more powerful, and then more resilient to injury as well.
Okay, so before Jilene jumps in with a list of questions she probably has off that takeaway she's got from that, not every audience member that listens to the 15-point plan is lifting. They're not all
Yeah,
out there doing deadlifts and lat pull
true.
downs and all that stuff. Some of them are just here to, heck, walk a mile a day as part of
Yeah.
their exercise and get the other 14 points of the plan. Yet postural health has got to be important to us everywhere because, as you say, everything comes off the spine for our body. Give me a
hmm
stretch, an exercise that everybody listening to this should be doing on a regular basis to help put their body better.
Yeah. Okay. Love this. It's hard for me to, as we're talking about coaching, like pull my brain out of coaching mode. But you'd be surprised. Most of the people I work with are people that don't necessarily work out a lot. They're just people that want to feel better in their body. So there's two different scenarios usually that people come to me, and it's their posture. They can feel that their posture is not ideal, and it makes them feel emotionally less strong, less resilient. Like, they can feel how the way their body position is closing them off. They feel uncomfortable when they walk into a room. They don't feel confident. Or there's people that they have injury, right? They're feeling pain, and that's why they come to me. So you don't need to be someone who works out to take advantage of better posture. Most of us, because of our lifestyle, and this is probably something we've all heard before, is we have a tendency to be forward flexed in the spine. So the shoulders caving forward, closing off the chest. And that puts us usually into what's called kyphosis, or kyphotic posture. And that means the upper back rounding. So there's like a rounding back. So the shoulders come forward, the back reaches back, and you're in this forward flexed position. Not only does that then influence the performance of your body, right? Your shoulders. I mean, if you guys just sit here with me, everyone who's listening, try this. So if you're sitting down or you're standing, just exaggerate pulling your shoulders forward and rounding your back and your head forward. Yeah, like a little turtle or something. Now, what I want you to do is try and reach your arm overhead while you do this. it's
That's
almost
difficult.
It is
impossible. Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
difficult.
Dad can't reach
So
his hands
now,
over
yeah.
today, so it's
So
extra difficult
now,
for him.
well, yeah, right. His arms are sore. So now I want everyone to open up their chest, lift their collarbones up toward where like the wall meets your ceiling or the sky if you're outside, and then pull your shoulders down away from your ears. Now bring that same arm up overhead. It's a completely different movement.
Mhm.
So that's an easy example of how the position of the spine highly influences the rest of the body. So my number one exercise I would have people do is a pec minor stretch. Pec minor is part of the pec area, the pec muscle, the front of the chest. And it's a small little muscle that tends to pull the shoulder forward and creates a lot of immobility and can also create lots of tension through the neck. So I recommend like standing next to a wall with your forearm and your elbow and your hand on the wall, and then rotating away from the wall to stretch out the front of the shoulder. If I could give anyone one exercise or one stretch, that's what it would be.
I love that stretch. I do
I love
love
that
that stretch
too.
very much. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It also
so
gets in the bicep and the shoulder.
what about for people who are sitting a lot during the day? So I'm in an
Yeah.
office chair right now, and sometimes I'm here for 8 to 10 hours. Is
Hmm.
that a stretch that you recommend for someone who's seated a lot? Is there
Yes,
anything else you
definitely.
recommend for posture for people who do have seated type jobs?
Yeah, so a pec minor stretch is great. Pec minor stretch is more going to treat the symptom, not necessarily the problem, but it's really helpful and it's easy. So that's why the pec minor stretch is like, that's a stretch that I love to give. If we want to really get to like the nitty gritty and the root of the problem, it's going to be thoracic mobilizations for the thoracic spine. So the thoracic spine is right underneath the cervical. The cervical spine is the neck. And there's a little bony process behind your neck. And if you touch that, you'll feel it's like a little bulge. And that tells you where your cervical spine ending and your thoracic is beginning. We want to mobilize the thoracic spine so that it becomes more open and less flex forward, like we were just talking about. You can do that with a foam roller, which is really helpful. Just lying on the foam roller and inhaling and opening your body as your head comes back to the floor and exhaling forward. That's a great way to basically open up the front side of the body. You're just trying to do the opposite of what you do every day, which is why I like to say, like, it's not rocket science, postural health, but it's
Mhm.
intentional work. It's important to make sure that people don't think this is something that's not attainable, that they can't do and that they can't do on their own. We all have that power and that ability. It's more just like thinking about, hey, if my shoulders are forward and that's uncomfortable, maybe I should try and open them and pull them back, right?
Mhm.
And when we do mobilizations through the thoracic spine, not only are we helping give you upright posture, we're changing the position of your body so you naturally come into that position. It's different than just being like, I'm going to sit taller every day. You can't really force your posture into a better position. You want to actually change the shape of the spine, and mobilizing it helps with that.
That's great. I think just the awareness. I don't know if a lot of us think about this every single day, right? And as I try some of these exercises that you're mentioning right here on the podcast, I can feel my energy start to rise. And I
Hmm.
wonder too, like when we lose energy in our day, when we feel like we have, especially towards the end of the day, right? When a lot of our energy reserves are used up,
Hmm.
I'd like to ask you, how do you keep your energy levels so high? Us on the
Yeah.
15-point plan podcast, that's a big focus, right? Is
Yeah.
increasing our energy levels and talking about this postural health seems like that's actually a big part of it. And what else would you add for yourself? I felt your
Yeah.
energy the moment that you came onto the podcast, so I'm
Oh, I
excited to
love
hear more
that.
about it.
Yeah. So this is like one of those areas where like as a coach, like I should just take my advice more and it's so hard to do. Like my biggest piece of advice to my clients is always like when you're busy at your desk, like stand up and like stretch every 30 minutes. I am terrible at doing that. This is me admitting like that I am so bad at taking my own advice. I like get into it and I'm just like, I gotta finish and I'm just a mad woman, like trying to get my to-do list done. So energy wise, I say simple, really simple. I like to drink water, lots of water. So water throughout my day is a huge way that I keep And they sip
Psychosomatic.
their
Jilene
water.
and I both just picked up our water to have a
Uh-huh.
drink as you say that. So
So, and I'm not perfect at this either, actually. This is something else I really struggle with, but it's really important. So, drinking plenty of water, especially during the workday, because it's so easy to forget. And then walking.
Mm.
Walking. I can't share enough how important it is for all of us to simply walk. And you mentioned earlier about how some people who listen to the podcast might not be actively working out. I don't care. If you walk every day, that is basically you telling your body that everything is functioning and okay. It's like turning on the engine of your car and just allowing it to run, allowing the organs and the muscles and the joints and all of the fibers in your body to just start working together. Our body is this incredible machine. And I think we sometimes forget how magnificent it is. And a great way to treat it well is just by to simply walk. So, walking my dog, walking outside, and drinking water are two things that I feel like keep my energy high when I'm feeling tired. And then my last thing, listening to podcasts and watching TV shows and reading. I like being entertained and I like watching things that aren't work related. For many years, all I read was like self help, like be the best person you could possibly be every day. And that's all I read. That's all I listened to. That's all I watched. Now I love like fantasy, thriller, like anything that's going to help take me out of my daily life and help pull me just into a different world. I really appreciate and helps me just be more energetic when I show up for other people because I'm taking time to just like step out of my to-do list and my life, you know?
that's awesome. Right, folks, get that. Go watch TV, go watch a
Yeah.
movie, go read a book.
Hmm.
It's that unplugged. For me, that's actually one of my hobbies is watching a movie. So
Same.
again, check in the 15-point plan for one of my other things. Okay. So I'm a big believer in working out. I'm a workout guy. I love doing it, right? That's why the Tonal's hanging on the wall of my house and I'm there
Hmm.
4 days a week, letting you or Jackson specifically yell at me. You're the two that's usually pushing me and challenging me. You said something today during the workout, and I'm not going to get it right because I was too busy like lying on the floor in a pile of sweat and huffing and puffing trying to. But you said lifting isn't necessarily fun.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
it's the result that comes from it that we feel really good about. But in the moment, no, we're usually not enjoying it. Talk a little about that concept because I
Hmm.
want our audience members who are sitting there saying, well, I don't want to go, it's going to hurt or it's hard or I don't want to do it. I don't think it's fun. You got to be, I'm telling you, I was yelling at you when I was doing those lat pull downs today, burning out through the 15 of them there. Um, it's not fun. Talk about your experience with that and
Yeah.
with some of your coaches and how it still brings results
Hmm.
that are fun.
Yeah, so this is something that I've been really trying to sit into as I find my identity, air quotes, when as a tonal coach, because it is a little bit different than when I was with my clients one on one. A lot of the clients I saw one on one have been with me for like 7 to 10 years, so it's
Wow.
like they become like family. So it's different, you know. But as I've been trying to kind of mull over, like what fuels me when I work out, because whatever fuels me is really all that I can share and teach because that's my experience. I can't pretend to try and understand someone else who might be motivated by something different. And as I've been thinking about this, I sat down, I've been sitting down and really like what drives me to work out? Like why do I do this thing that is so hard? And it really comes from just a commitment of saying that I will. And I don't show up, I don't need like motivational quotes, I don't need necessarily like a big group environment. But what I do need is a specific reason as to why I showed up. And I think a lot of people um, kind of zoom in too narrow, and so they don't find that motivation to show up to something that's really difficult. For example, I want to lose weight in my thighs. That's so narrowed in that that's not going to give you the power to show up every day to something that's so challenging. So I think it starts there. I think it starts with just finding a goal that is actually going to push you through. Like you probably have a larger goal than just like, I want bigger biceps. I mean, that's just not going to take you through a really challenging day on tonal or, in the gym. And I think I just lost track of your original question.
It was just, you're talking about it, right?
Okay.
That this isn't necessarily fun.
Oh, that's
right?
right.
So
Like
we're
hard
pulling
things.
through to it. Now,
Yeah.
not everybody, look, so race season's over for me, right? So Jilene and I ran Ragnar earlier in the year. So there was training for the running on that. I just finished Spartan season. So the training for that is now over. I'm into fall mode now and winter mode so I can get ready for next year. It's hard sometimes for us to see what we're training for.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep your clients motivated in that situation when there isn't necessarily I don't know when my next Spartan race is yet because they haven't even released next season. I don't know what I'm training for. So this morning I'm just getting up more out of routine. But how do you keep your clients going for the ones that don't have something that they're making it bigger about?
Yeah, and I think this ties into like when someone's like, "Man, it's just so hard to work out. Like how do you do it so often?" And like you said, it's not that I enjoy getting my ass kicked. Like that's not that is it's rewarding. I think that's a good way to put it. Like it's rewarding, but it's not necessarily like enjoyable in the moment. And I think that it requires a certain amount of grit from individuals who really want to show up and work hard. You have to want to be uncomfortable and you have to want change. And I think that is across the board. I think that's why you find that a lot of people who work out, and there's a variety of people that work out, but people that are super consistent tend to also be like high level, like executive type people, because that's their mindset, right? They can like get into this like mode where they just go, 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 go. And that's not necessarily a good thing. It's can be, there's a variety of individuals who can go too hard or not hard enough. But it takes a certain amount of grit to be able to show up to something that's really uncomfortable. And I think the clients that continue to show up again and again and again, have simply said, I will, and I am. I'm going to do this because I said I will do this. It's a commitment to yourself. I cannot motivate people to show up. I can't inspire people to show up. That is all intrinsic. That is everything inside of us that we have to be pulled by something larger, wanting to be stronger for our kids, wanting to not, die of heart disease. Like we have to be pulled by something bigger than ourselves in order to show up to something so uncomfortable. It just cannot only be to lose weight. I guarantee that you'll burn out.
So what I hear you're recommending is that we really tap into these couple sets of words, I will and I am. And there's a sense of pride and achievement, right? For showing up once, for showing up consistently. I know that's, for me, achievement is such a huge part of why I continue to do it and why it's a part of the identity that I have created for myself. And I'm curious, does tonal in particular and some of these other workout classes and routines that you provide, do they give your clients a sense of achievement? Do they show you what you've achieved?
Yeah, well, tonal definitely is all about stats.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I'm not necessarily a stat person. I'm a feeling person. How did that workout make me feel? Did I feel strong after that? Did I feel winded? I'm definitely more of a feeling person. But tonal specifically is very stat oriented. And when you're done with a workout, it tells you your volume, the time that you spent under tension, under load. It tells you, it's changing all the time. It tells you what muscles you've worked. It tells you if your muscles are ready, what muscles are ready for the next workout. Like it's definitely stat driven, which I think is a huge motivator for a lot of people. And then there's like the emotional people like me where I'm like, I don't really care about my strength score very much, but my week streak, that number I'm all about. And if you're not a tonal member, basically it tonal tracks how many weeks consistently you've worked out. and I'm
I
at
got
like
my 25-week
120.
badge today. So
25?
I have my
Nice.
25-week badge today, and you can be sure the only thing I track is as soon as every workout is over, I watch to see if my strength score goes up.
I know you do.
That's all I do. I just
know
stare
you
there and go,
do.
did I earn another point or 2 points or 3 points? And I wish I had sandbagged the intro workout. Here's my tip to all future tonal people. Sandbag the heck out of the first workout where it sets, because you want to be strong, right? You do those things. And my strength score started higher than so many other people that my progress doesn't look as big,
Yep.
because if I could have sandbagged that first one and had a lower strength score, now all of a sudden I would have had the 200% increase on my strength score or whatever. So
That's normal though. As you get stronger, your rate of strength, growth, all of that starts to slow down. That's very normal. Like my really strong clients are going to be deadlifting, 200 plus pounds. Well, they're not going to jump to 300 very quick. That's going to be a very slow process. But my client who's deadlifting 20 pounds might jump to 100 fairly quick. Right. So it's just, it's definitely different. I'm at like 120 week streak. That's my number. I couldn't even tell you what my strength score is.
well, I will have to keep going to catch up to you on that week streak. Let me ask you this. We talked about this really briefly, and I don't know if this episode has aired yet or not. So Jilene, we have to stay neutral here because I don't know if the conversation has been put out there. Jilene and I just recorded a debate.
Yes.
And we recorded a debate on to cheat or not to cheat, as in the cheat meal concept and all of that. We're not going to give you our opinions. What's your thought as a coach, as a trainer, as someone who's done all this? What do you think about the cheat meal?
I love this question. Okay. So this is what I think. I'm definitely someone who follows an intuitive mindset when it comes to eating. Now, that doesn't mean that in the past I haven't dove deep into cheat meals, and that I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think everybody is different. And that's the really important part, that when it comes to movement, when it comes to food, therapy, relationships, we all need something different. For some people, they're able to have a cheat meal and then revolve their week around that, eat super healthy. They're happy doing that. It's not difficult for them to eat the same thing during the week. Some people love that consistency. It helps them feel comfortable, safe, and be able to take on maybe all the stressors in their everyday life, right? Like that is a safe place for some people. For me, not so much. I had bulimia for 7 years, going through my 20s. And after I came out of that 7 years, I went into this 3 years of hyper awareness of my food, to where I logged every single meal, every bit of food that went into my mouth, I logged it. And I only ate healthy because I had told myself that, all right, wouldn't get sick. As long as I eat healthy, I won't throw up my food. So I'll just eat healthy for the rest of my life and then I'll be fine. And I remember the moment where I hit like 3 years, my fitness pal gave me a big notification, was like, congratulations, you've logged your food for 3 years. And I was like, oh, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my God, that is crazy. I can't believe that I've done this for 365 3 times through without stopping. And it was a wake up call for me to be like, wow, how about I just like eat something just to eat it? And so then that started this brand new journey of slowly trying to consume food. And I would wake up every day and I would sit and close my eyes. I don't have to do this consciously anymore because it's a habit, but I would sit and I would close my eyes and I would think, what does my body need today? And I would sit on that. And sometimes it would be like waffles. And then other days it would be fruit. And sometimes it'd be pizza. Keep in mind, I have celiac disease and I'm lactose intolerant. So it's minimal on the cheap food end. And I slowly that started to become more and more a part of my lifestyle and my day. And it's not to say that there aren't times where I'm like, you know what? I'm about to be on camera for Tonal for 4 days. I'm not going to stuff my face with pizza the day before. That's just because I'll literally feel uncomfortable. But other than that, I am very intuitive when it comes to my food, and I eat whatever sounds good. And I know will make me feel good. Now, usually that is healthier things. I'm forced to eat healthy because I have celiac disease and I'm lactose intolerant. So I don't eat dairy and I don't eat gluten. But there are plenty of tasty things that you can have that are not glutinous and lactose. So
You say
that's more how I go through my day.
if you say so. All
Yeah.
right. I want to ask one more question before I turn it over to Jilene and she starts asking whatever she's sitting there, if she has any notes on anything and all that. And I'm going to say this wrong. I'm going to absolutely get the term wrong because to me it says hypertrophy, right?
Yes.
But it's not hypertrophy. It's hypertrophy.
Hypertrophy.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's another term, everybody out there. And I'm just basically using our audience in this situation because I want to learn more about it. This is a concept I have never heard about in the strength building, weight training world. Talk to us about what this term means, how we use it to grow.
Yeah. So hypertrophy is essentially um, a way to train to get a specific hormonal response from the training that you're doing. And that hormonal response would be to have the muscles grow in size. So it's different than strength. When you're trying to build strength, it doesn't always mean that your muscles are going to grow in size. Hypertrophy is about growing muscle size. So growing the fibers of the muscles. And that happens, an easy way to put it or think about it is it happens through repeated exposure to that muscle group. Whereas strength training is more about joint health and being able to train for a long amount of time. So training to not only strengthen certain movements, but just to be stronger overall. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get bigger. I think a lot of people think they're always just going to get bigger, but it takes really specific and intentional types of programming to get large. It takes a lot of work and it's a lot of work that people don't usually want to put in. And like we talked about earlier, hypertrophy training or body composition training, so you're trying to change the composition of your body, takes high volume, which means you're under load for a long amount of time. There are two really important parts about hypertrophy. It's your time under tension, and then also your the load that's being put on the body. So like the muscular mechanical load. Those two things combined are what helps create larger muscles. So not only is it about being under load for a long time over and over and over again, it's about that weight also being really heavy. So it's really a really hard way of training. So if there's anyone out there that's like worried that they're working out and they're going to get bigger, just know that if that's not your goal, it's going to be really hard to get there. If it is your goal, be prepared, baby, because that shit is not easy.
That would
But
explain why you've got us doing 12s and 15 reps of things,
yeah,
and it's not light or
yeah.
easy while you're doing it, even though you call it light during the workout.
Yeah, so we're like, so what you're talking about is the heavy light method, which is one of my favorite ways of training hypertrophy, which is essentially like a big compound exercise, like a barbell bench press or something that you do for less reps, which then means you're going to be lifting more weight because your time under tension is lower. But then you follow it up with an exercise that's very similar and works the similar muscle group that keeps the time under tension, let's say for your chest, for example, longer. So we're elongating that time under tension while also keeping you under a heavy load. That second exercise has more reps, but since you've already done that other exercise that's high reps, it makes the second exercise really hard and feel like it's way heavier than it actually is. And that's that little magic trick called hypertrophy.
Thank you for explaining what you're doing
Yeah.
to us when I work
Yeah.
out in the morning.
Well, now we know what will have happened if Chad comes into the podcast recording studio and he's like bulging out of his shirts. He's been working on this concept called hypertrophy.
Yep.
Right. Well, that's fascinating. I took a lot of notes there for what that is. And I think it's nice to know the difference between maybe generalized strength training and what we could do to improve certain areas of the body that we are wanting to grow in size. I like my biceps the way that they are, but there are other things we could change. Yeah.
Yep. And then for a lot of people, it's like upper body. A lot of people, it's glutes. Like I
Right.
think when the biggest part of being a coach is ensuring that you're arming your clients and the people who trust you with the knowledge to be able to make decisions on their own, and know like, oh, I like have an idea of like what that is. Like that's like when I was training one-on-one, that was the most rewarding part about my job, was when my clients would say, I went into the gym the other day and like I saw that other person, they were not deadlifting right. Like they know how to deadlift. Like, and it's not even a you know, disrespect to that person. They were just like, wow, I actually could spot from afar good form. Like I know good form. Or like I was able to like write myself a workout and know what the goal was and why I was putting those movements in. So that's probably the most rewarding part, is just being able to help people understand their own body and how to get stronger.
Mm. And I love that it's not a one size fits all for the approach, right?
No.
It's individualized. And some of the things that I heard you say over this interview are in the form of a question. I noticed that when it comes to like your workout and maybe what you feel during the workout, but especially what you feel after the workout, you asked yourself a question, how do I feel after this workout? And just assessing that. And like,
Hmm.
does that help me reach the desired identity that I want for myself?
Yeah.
And then you ask yourself the question, what does my body need today in terms of like diet, nutrition, and food? How is it going to make me feel after I eat it? So I love these questions that you're asking yourself. It seems like you're really putting yourself first. You're saying like, I'm worthy and I want to teach my clients that they are worthy. Is there anything else that you would add to that for creating a powerful mindset and prioritizing ourselves?
Yeah. So I think this is probably stems from like the most important part about what I've discovered about the body in all the certifications and working with clients, is that as a society, we have told ourselves that our body doesn't know what it's doing and that we need to tell it, like, I need to eat this or I need this medication. Like, even when it comes down to disease and sickness, we assume that it's our body fighting us when actually it's our body talking to us. Our body is extremely smart. Like I said earlier, it's this great, if we really sit down and be like, this is amazing that our body can just do all of these things without us asking. And I think that's why I always resort to asking myself, what does it need? Because guess what? My body is not influenced by my ego or by my past traumas or situations or things that I've been through. My body knows itself so deeply. Our bodies know themselves so deeply. And when we can actually trust it and listen to it, we're going to get the answers that we need instead of our human, mind, which is flawed. And that's the beauty of the human experience, is trying to make those decisions for us. And it's just not going to work. Um, and so I think when we are able to trust our body and to trust that it has the answers, and that it's always, 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 no matter what, just trying to bring us back to homeostasis, which is just bring us back to our baseline. And that could be when you have a cold and you have a runny nose, like there's a reason for that. And it's incredible. Or when you have an injury and you have a limp, or you have like when you have a glute pain and then your quad starts to get tight. It's like that's your body being like, "Hey, something's up here. Maybe you should roll it out." Like it literally talks to us. So I just think it's so important to listen, to open our ears and listen.
Oh, listen to our bodies. Boy, wouldn't we get a lot farther if we
Mm,
actually did. I know there are
that
times
is so good.
my loving wife will look at me like, "Why are you still eating?" I'm like, "Because my body is telling me it needs more right now for some reason." I
Hmm.
so yeah, we definitely need to listen. Now, folks, you can get the tonal. You can bring Nicolette right into your home. She can be there hanging on the wall for you at any time that you need a training session with her. I'll tell you, one of the beauties of the tonal I have found for people is you don't have to go into the gym, not because you don't want to go out, not because of COVID or all that, but because there are some people who say, I don't want to be embarrassed walking into the gym. You've talked about they didn't have the
Yeah.
confidence to just walk in. Nobody can see you at home.
It's
right?
amazing.
Close the door to the room you're working out in, and you can look as silly as you want. And when you're only lifting 6 pounds, because Tonal says that's the right weight for you to do that, you don't have to be judged that people are walking around with
Yep.
50-pound dumbbells hurting themselves because you've got this little 6-pound baby curl
Amen.
going on, right? So uh, Tonal is one way that people can find you. But now they've heard so much from you and well, I could talk to you for hours. I think now we could keep going, but we won't. But how do people get more Nicolette after they end this
Yeah.
podcast episode?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways. On Instagram, I'm coach.nicolette, Nicollette. And on my Instagram, it's not super fitness focused. So if you're not a super fitness person, that's a-okay. I actually connect more with using my Instagram as like, I don't know, a really public journal. I just like to share more about like intuition and movement and life and things that are kind of coming up for me when I'm working out or in relationships and in my friendships. And it's more just about really thoughtful conversation, in addition to movement. So you can find me there, and I love connecting with people on my Instagram. I still have like just a moderate following. So it's really easy for me to still connect with people one-on-one. And it actually brings me a lot of joy especially from Tonal members, but anyone really. And then my website, nicoletteawellness.com. And you can pop in there. I'm not doing a ton on the side because I am with Tonal and it takes up a ton of my time. I love it. I feel so grateful to be able to be with Tonal. But you can find more about me, about posture assessments and program design, through my website. Yeah. And you can also just shoot me an email, but those are the two best ways to reach me.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time today to share with us, to share with our audience, to come off my Tonal screen and actually become a real person for me.
And
Maybe I
respond.
maybe I won't yell at you so much next time, or maybe I'll yell at you more. I don't know now. We'll find out at my next workout. But on behalf of Jilene, on behalf of our audience, Nicolette, we really appreciate you finding the time, taking the time, and sharing with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really deeply appreciate it. It's been great.
And so do we. Folks, we really hope that you join us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/groups/win make give because we're part of the Win Make Give network. Join us there so we can share more things there. Come find us, whether it's there, whether it's on Instagram as well. Find Nicolette there, find Jilene, find myself. We're all out there for you to connect with you. Until then, we hope that this episode has upped your energy levels, and have a great day.